My guest today is Mr. Randy Noble, a Christian author and host of a radio program called The Cross in the Desert. I contacted Randy a while ago after I heard his interviews with Iranian activists around the world. I was intrigued to hear an American radio host not only is interested in Iranian issues, whether it's human rights or politics, but gives them time and opportunity to tell their stories. I spoke to Randy about his published book called The Cross in the Desert and his upcoming book, which is about Reyhaneh Jabbari, a young girl who was executed last year on October 25, 2014 in Iran for defending her honor against her rapist. Her rapist, Morteza Sarbandi, was an Iranian intelligence agent. Hi, Randy Noble. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation, and thank you for being so patient with me.
Thank you, Nargis.
Tell us, what is the name of your book, Randy?
The name of my book is The Cross in the Desert, subtitled Speaking Hope and Freedom to Iran.
So it's very interesting for me to see an American Christian writer and radio host to write and talk about Iran and Iranian people's situation. What made you write this book? And I want to know especially, why did you dedicate it to Reyhaneh Jabbari?
Well, to answer your first question is the video of Neda Sultan being shot by Basiji in the alleyway in Tehran in the 2009 presidential election. The video that everyone around the world saw was the reason why I began speaking up for Iranians. It had such an impact on my life. And I only found out later, Nargis, that her name, Neda, means voice calling. And I really felt like that's when my calling began. The reason I dedicated my book to Reyhaneh was I became aware of her case through some other human rights activists who are Iranian. And I began to follow this case with great interest. And I was so devastated that the Iranian regime would even think of putting to death a woman who defended herself against a rapist. And I remember a month before this execution, I would spend nights in the chapel at the hospital just praying for Reyhaneh, praying for something good to come out of this, and of course it didn't. And I felt that I wanted to do something very special for her family and for all Iranians, so I took a picture of her and put it on my book and dedicated my book to her.
And as I understand, you are actually writing a book about Reyhaneh. Am I right?
Yes. One of the things I wanted to do when this happened, I wanted to somehow get in contact with her mother, Sholeh, but she doesn't know very good English, so through an interpreter, she sent my friend request, and we've become very good friends. And she is actually sharing a lot of valuable information about Reyhaneh with me, so I can write something very positive about Reyhaneh, and to answer all the critics, because I think that Reyhaneh is a symbol for the oppressed people in Iran. And I just want to write about who she is and what she stands for. And so I'm writing a book called Reyhaneh, A Beautiful Fragrance, referring to her name, meaning flower and fragrance.
Randy, I want to know your impression of Iran and Iranian people in general before Neda Agha Sultan.
You know, I didn't know a whole lot about it, other than the fact that the government held hostages back in 1979. And like everyone, I wanted to know why this happened, and it was just a thought I had. And really, I thought nothing about Iran very much until the 2009 election.
And what do you think of Iran now?
I love the Iranian people. They're gracious, respectful, hospitable. I'm just driven by the passion they have for democracy and freedom. And the fact that they are just some of the most respectful people I've ever talked to. A lot of them on Facebook, I'm friends with them, and we Skype quite a bit. We talk on Viber, and I just have such a passion to be a voice for them.
And why do you spend so much time advocating for freedom of Iranians, Randy?
Well, it all links back to Neda, and it all links to the events that are happening in Iran when I see how women are treated, how they're treated like second-class citizens, and I see Iranians thirsting and hungering for freedom and coming here. I want to help them all that I can, so I try to be a voice for the voiceless. I try to put petitions on my Facebook page to speak up for their human rights and help them all I can in a practical way, like with the English language. I will spend time talking with them and helping them with their English and in practical ways, but I want to help them, for them to live out their hopes and dreams and not to be under this oppression.
And how do you get them to trust you and open up to you, Randy? It's really important point, I think, because the Iranian regime has crushed the trust of Iranian people. When they connect to people, it's very scary because it could have dangerous consequences for them.
Right. It's a very scary situation. One of the first things I do when I friend request them is speak in their own language, the little bit that I've learned, and tell them that I'm their friend, I'm not their enemy, that I don't think Iranians are terrorists. I try to explain to them I don't see them as terrorists, and I explain to them why I want to be friends with them. And a lot of times, because I have other Iranian friends, it's easier now than it used to be. But I take that approach. I try to break down the stereotypes and let them know that I'm an American that cares about Iranians.
And could you tell us what is the American people's impression of Iran after the nuclear deal? Do they differentiate between Iranians and the regime at all?
Well, here's what I'm trying to do, Nargis. I have book signings where I hand out stories of my Iranian friends to help them distinguish between the true Iranian people and the government. And one of those postings is in my book. It's a story by Al-Razu, who says Iranians are not terrorists, they are your friends. And I will hand this out to people and say, look, here's what real Iranians are, and here's what the government is. And I always show them the difference.
And when you talk to people, I'm sure you have talked to a lot of people. I read your book, The Cross in the Desert. I saw that a lot of people have contacted you and you interview them. And I just want to know, how do you decide which one to publish? Because they are so different and they're all so moving.
That's a good question. One of the stories in there is about Marnoush, and her story was particularly intriguing because of the way women are treated, and because of how her husband treated her and abused her, and how she went to court and the judge even upheld that you're property of your husband. I thought that story needed to be told so that people understand what women are suffering from in Iran. And so I published stories based on their situations like Marnoush. I want my readers to understand how women are treated. So that's one of the reasons why I selected her story.
And Randy, what is the name of your radio program and when does it air?
Well, my program is by the same name. It's called The Cross in the Desert, Speaking Hope and Freedom to Iran. It's every Monday and Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Do you have any website where people can go and listen to your show?
Just go to my page in Facebook called The Cross in the Desert, and there's a list of podcasts of my radio program.
Great. Thank you so much, Randy, for this, and thank you for taking part in echoing Iranian people's voice for freedom.
Well, thank you so much, Nargis, for having me as your guest.
Gathered here with my family, my neighbors and my friends, standing firm together against oppression, holding hands. It doesn't matter where you're from, or if you're young or woman or man, we're here for the same reason. We want to take back our